Every parent sends their child to school believing they are safe. But what happens when the very person meant to teach becomes the reason a child cries every morning? This is the shocking story of an 8-year-old in Yobom Acorn, a happy child who suddenly refused to go to school, not because of her classmates, not because of school stress, but because of a secret hidden behind her tears. Before everything changed, Inyobon was the kind of child neighbors loved. Her laughter filled the compound and her drawings covered the walls. Her mother, Mrs. Ekaite Acorn, always said, "Inni baby, God picked your smile from heaven." But one Monday morning, something strange happened. Ekaite entered the neighbor's room with her school uniform ironed and warm breakfast waiting on the table. But instead of finding her daughter rushing and brushing her hair as usual, she found her hiding somewhere, hugging one of her school shoes tightly as if someone wanted to take it from her. "Inni, what are you doing there?" her mother asked. There was no answer, just silent sobbing. At first, Ekaite thought Ini didn't study for a test. She knelt down and touched her shoulder. "Baby, stand up. You'll be late." But Newborn pulled back deeper, pressing her forehead against the wall. Then she whispered, barely audible, "Mommy, please, I don't want to go to school today." Ekaite frowned. "But why? Did someone beat you? Did you fight with your friend?" Ini shook her head. "Is it mathematics or English?" Another head shake. Ekaite forced her to get dressed because she wasn't saying anything tangible. And when she returned home that day, everything about her changed. It was as if someone had pressed the switch inside her and turned off the bright little girl she used to be. Before now, the whole compound knew her as the child who ran around with her neighbor's puppy and who always asked tiring questions. But that afternoon when Ekaite tried to engage her, Ini didn't answer. She just sat on the chair staring at nothing, her eyes wide and empty. At first, Ekaite thought she was unusually dramatic, but by evening it was clear this was not an ordinary behavior. Iniobo refused to eat her favorite meal. She didn't touch her crayons. She didn't even watch the television. When it was time for bed, she begged her mother to sleep beside her, something she hadn't done since she was 4. "Mommy, don't go," she said every time Ekaite tried to stand up, "and please don't off the lights." Ekaite didn't understand, but she stayed. Around midnight, she woke up to find Ine trembling even in her sleep. Sweat covered her face, and suddenly she jerked up with a loud cry. "No, no, please don't do it." Her scream shook the entire house. Gabriel, her father, rushed into the room. "What happened? Ini, what is it?" But the child hid behind a kite, shaking uncontrollably. Gabriel looked at his wife, his face filled with fear. "Something is definitely wrong. This is not my daughter," he said. Ekaite nodded tearfully. "I know." They tried to engage her in a conversation, but she didn't say anything. And by morning, Ekaite received a shocking package. Inyobon wet the bed, something she hadn't done in years. She sat quietly, refusing to meet her mother's eyes. "Ini, why didn't you wake me up?" Ekaite asked, trying to keep her voice gentle. I didn't know when it happened," the little girl whispered. It was the way she spoke, stiff and fearful, like someone expecting punishment that broke Ekaite's heart. She washed the bedsheet without complaining, but deep inside she was scared. When a child suddenly starts bedwetting, something is very wrong. By weekend, her best friend from the compound Ituru came knocking. "Auntie Ekaite, is Inni coming out to play?" she asked with her usual excitement. Before Ekaite could answer, she heard the sound of quick footsteps inside. Inni ran to the bedroom and shut the door. Ekaite forced a smile. "My dear, she's not feeling too well today." But as Itoro turned to leave, her heart squeezed painfully. Inni loved playing with her. Why was she now behaving like a child hiding from the world? By evening, Ekaite noticed something else. Inyobom had unpacked her book from her school bag and hid them inside the wardrobe. When she asked why, Ini burst into tears. Mommy, I don't want to go to school again. Please don't send me back there. I don't want to see him. Him? Who? Ekaite asked immediately, but Ini shut her lips tight. She began biting her fingernails, something she hadn't done before. Gabriel, who overheard the conversation, rushed in immediately. My baby, if someone is doing something to you, tell Daddy, I will protect you. But Inyobom just called tighter into herself. Daddy, I am scared. He said. She stopped immediately, her small hands shaking violently. What did he say? And who is this person? Gabriel asked. But Ini continued shaking her head. He said if I talk, something bad will happen. That was when Ekaite's whole body went cold. She knew someone had threatened her child. Determined to observe more closely, she accompanied Ini to school the next week. The moment they reached the school gates, Ini froze. She held the seatbelt tightly and refused to calm down. Tears started pouring uncontrollably. Mommy, please, I don't want to go in there. Even her breathing changed. Fast, shallow, and panicked. The security man at the gate stared in confusion. Madam, what happened? She used to be very happy. Ekaite forced a smile and said, she just doesn't feel well. But the truth was obvious. Ini was terrified of something or someone inside the school. During dinner, Gabriel casually mentioned, Inyobom, your PhD teacher, Mr. Bass. Before he even finished the name, Inyobom screamed. Hear me, not cry. I said she screamed. She covered her ears with both hands and shouted, Stop! Don't say his name. Gabriel sat frozen. Ekaite's hand covered her mouth in shock. A child does not react like this unless something traumatizing had happened. Whatever it was, it involved Mr. Bassi. A week later, something happened that removed all doubts. Ekaite washed in Yobon's school uniform and found a small tear at the neckline, roughly stitched as if someone had pulled it hard. The stitching wasn't neat, and certainly it's not in Yobon's work. Ekaite knelt down beside her daughter and held the uniform up gently. In Yobon, who tore your school shirts? Ini's lips trembled. She looked away immediately. Ini, talk to me. Who did this? Then, in a voice that almost disappeared into the air, she whispered, He said I should not talk. Ekaite grabbed her hand. Who? Who is this person? Ini met her mother's eyes for the first time in days, and through tears, she murmured, My PhD teacher. Ekaite almost ran mad. This was no longer suspicion. This was no longer imagination. This was simply danger, a real danger. Her child was in pain. The next Monday morning, after a full weekend of crying spells, nightmares, and unexplained fear, Ekaite made a decision. She will no longer sit on the fence and hope things will magically change. Inyobo, her daughter, was sinking deeper into something she didn't understand. She decided to beat her daughter, and then she noticed something new. Inyobo kept flinching every time she raised her hand near certain places. Even if it was just to tuck her head behind her ear, Ini's reflex was to withdraw as if she expected to be hit. What has happened to my child? She asked herself. She tried to smile at Ini. Baby, don't worry. Mommy is going with you today to find out what is wrong. Ini nodded silently, her small fingers trembling as she held her lunchbox. On their way to school, Ekaite kept on praying silently. God, please help me. Show me what to do. I don't want to mess everything up. When they reached the school gate, Ini's reaction was immediate. Her legs locked, her grip on the seatbelt tightened. She heard her mother and whispered, Mommy, let's go home, please. But Waikaite heard her whispering comfort. I am not leaving you. I promise. She walked with her to the school's administrative block, decorated with posters about good behavior and respect for teachers. Ironically, one poster read, "Teachers are your second parents." Inside the office, Mrs. Musu, the head teacher, sat behind her desk. She was a middle-aged woman with a calm professional tone, the type who always believed the school was right. "Ah, Mrs. Ekon," she greeted with a smile. "Hope all is well." Ekaite didn't return the smile. "No, ma, everything is not well." Mrs. Musu leaned forward. "What is the issue?" Ekaite wasted no time. "Something is happening to my daughter. Her behavior has changed completely. She's terrified of coming to school. She's afraid of her PHE class. She screams when she hears the teacher's name. She has nightmares, bedwetting, fear, and a torn uniform." She placed the uniform on the desk. Mrs. Wosu adjusted her glasses and examined it casually. "Madam, children play rough. They tear clothes all the time now." "Not my child," Ekaite said firmly. "As she said, the PHE teacher tore it," Ekaite added quietly, even though her child hadn't said so. Everything went silent, but unexpectedly, Mrs. Wosu leaned back and chuckled softly, as if she had heard something ridiculous. "Madam, Mr. Bassi is one of our most respected teachers here. He had been here for 12 years. He even won the Teacher of the Year award last time. Children love him." Ini, who was clinging to her mother, shook her head violently. Mrs. Watson noticed. She frowned. "And you, why are you shaking your head? Did someone force you to say what your mother is saying?" Ini's grip tightened on her mother, her breathing fast. Ekaite snapped. "Please, don't talk to my child like that. She's already traumatized." "Madam, calm down," the head teacher said, raising her hands. "I am only doing my job. We cannot accuse the teacher based on the child's fear. Children sometimes imagine things." That statement made Ekaite's eyes burn with anger. "I said," she repeated, "that she hardly sleeps. She cries every time she hears PHE. She hides under the bed and she even begged me not to bring her to school. Does that look imagined to you? If she was your daughter, madam, will you be saying such?" Before Mrs. Wosu could reply, there was a knock on the door. "Come in," she said. And the person who walked in changed everything. It was Mr. Bassi. The moment he entered, Ines shrank and ran behind the chair, covering her face with both hands. Her whole body trembled. Ekaite's heart dropped. That single reaction told her everything she needed to know. "Oh, good morning, ma," Bassi greeted them collectively, unaware of the tension. And then he said to the head teacher, "I heard you wanted to see me, ma." "Yes," Mrs. Musu replied. "But right now we are discussing a complaint brought by these parents." Basil looked confused. "Complaints? About what?" He turned towards Ini, and Ini let out a loud cry. "Don't look at me," she screamed. Every hair on Ekaite's body stood. "What's the meaning of this?" Basil asked, trying to sound calm. "Madam, is the child all right?" His voice was steady and measured. "Sir," Ekaite said through clenched teeth, "something is frightening my daughter and it has everything to do with you." "Me?" Basil asked, sounding offended. "Yes, you. Tell me why my child is afraid of the PHE class." "Madam, with all due respect, children like to avoid PHE because of running and exercise. Maybe she's just lazy." And that statement made Ekaite to be seriously mad. "Don't you ever call my child lazy." Her eyes were fierce and her voice shook with anger. "Something happened to her. Something you know about. She wakes up at night screaming. She wets the bed after years. She hides under the bed. She trembles at your name and you are telling me all that is laziness?" The office went silent. Mrs. Wosu looked uncomfortable. Basim folded his arms defensively. Then he made the mistake of stepping forward slightly, and Ini screamed louder. Mommy, don't let him touch me. Ekaite flung her arms around Ini protectively, her heart pounding like a drum. Bassey raised his palm slowly. Madam, I swear I haven't touched your child. You are misunderstanding everything. He turned to the head teacher. You know me. I have taught here for years. This must be a child's lie or confusion. Instead of demanding an investigation, instead of comforting the terrifying child, and instead of suspending the teacher temporarily, Mrs. Rosso sighed and said, Madam, children sometimes copy stories from the television. Let's give her time, please. Something inside the kite snapped. A mixture of shock, anger, disappointment, and fear. So, you won't even check? She asked. Madam, there is nothing to check if there is no evidence. Inni whimpered behind her. That was it. Ekaite stood up and in a calm voice she said, Since you people don't want to listen, then get ready. She held Inni tightly and walked straight out of the office. That was the day she decided. If the school refused to protect her child, then she would fight. One mother alone against the whole system, and she was ready. The drive back home from the school felt like the longest journey of Ekaite's life. Inyobon felt fragile and she was shaking as though the world outside was dangerous. And maybe it was. Every few seconds, she wiped her eyes with the back of her tiny hand. Ekaite kept on whispering, It's okay, my baby. Nobody will hurt you again. When they finally reached home, Inyobon refused to leave her mother's hands. She clung to her like she was holding on to life itself. Mommy, don't leave me, she whispered again. I won't, Ekaite answered, her voice breaking. I promise you. She locked the door and sat on the couch with her, rocking her gently as if she was a baby. When Gabriel returned from work that evening, he entered the house with his usual relaxed stride. But the moment he saw Inyobon curled up on her mother's lap like a frightened kitten, his steps froze. Again? He asked. Yes, Ekaite replied. Gabriel dropped his wall back, sat beside them and touched his cheek. She flinched slightly. Inyobon, that is home and you are safe here, okay? She didn't speak. She only pulled her legs closer to her chest, burying her head deeper into her mother's stomach. Gabriel and Ekaite exchanged a long, heavy look. That look parents share when both of them know that this is not ordinary. Something bad had indeed happened. After dinner, Ekaite decided to try once more. She asked her daughter gently, My love, please talk to mommy. What happened? What did Mr. Bassett do to you? Inyobon looked away. Baby, we won't be angry, Ekaite continued. We just want to help you. You are safe here. Nobody will beat you. Nobody will shout and nothing will happen. I promise. Inyobon's eyes slowly lifted to meet her mother's. Tears gathered instantly. She shook her head fearfully. Mommy, he said if I talk, her voice cracked. He said he will come to our house. Those words felt like an iron rod piercing through Ekaite's heart. Gabriel clenched his fist and then he said angrily, I will kill that man. I will. No, Ekaite snapped. Don't say that. We need to be wise. We need proof. If you confront him alone, they will twist the whole story just like what they did today. He sank into a chair, burying his face in his hands. When things had calmed a little, Ekaite asked another question. My baby girl, when did this whole thing start happening? Inni wiped her eyes. Since second week of last term. That meant months. Months of fear. Months of threats and months of silence. Gabriel felt like the ground should open up and swallow him. My child had been suffering for months and we didn't know, he muttered. His voice was heavy with guilt. Ini, Ekaite whispered, fighting tears. What does he do to you? Inyobon's breathing changed. Her fingers shook and she whispered something Ekaite didn't hear clearly. What did you say, baby? She swallowed hard. He would ask other children to run around the school 10 times during his class and call it exercise. Then he would tell me to stay and he will come close and he will. She broke down completely. No child should cry that way. It took several minutes for her to breathe normally again. Gabriel couldn't bear it. He left the room and punched the wall repeatedly, muffling his cries. Ekaite closed her eyes and whispered, God, please help us. Later that night, after Ini finally slept in their bed, refusing to stay alone even for a second, Ekaite sat on the floor. Every part of her was shaking. Not from fear, but from anger. Anger at the school. Anger at the teacher. Anger at herself for not seeing it earlier, and anger at a world where innocent children suffer in silence. She made a promise that night, a deep fearing promise carved into her soul. I will not let this happen to another child. I will fight, even if I must fight alone. By the next morning, she had decided. She wasn't going back to the school. She wasn't speaking to the teacher again, and she wasn't waiting for the school to look into it. She picked up her phone and dialed a number she hadn't dialed in her life, the child protection line. She told them everything, every behavior, every tear, every nightmare, every whisper, and every detail. The officer on the other end listened quietly, and then she said, Madam, you did the right thing calling us. We are opening a case immediately. Around 1 p.m., there was a knock on the door. Gabriel opened it expecting a neighbor, but it wasn't. Standing outside were two people, a woman with an ID card labeled Child Welfare Services and a man with a badge partly visible under his jacket. Good afternoon, the woman greeted gently. We are here because of your daughter. Gabriel stepped aside immediately. Ekaite came out with Ini hiding behind her. The woman knelt down slowly to Ini's level. Hello, sweetheart. My name is Auntie Miriam. I am here to help you. Nobody will hurt you again. Ini looked at her cautiously. Miriam smiled warmly. We just want to talk to you gently, okay? You can sit with mommy the whole time. Ini nodded hesitantly. Ekaite held her daughter as tightly as she could. She didn't know exactly what would happen next, but she knew one thing. The fight for the truth had finally begun. The child protection officer spoke to Ekaite and Gabriel and explained the next steps. We need to observe her natural reaction ourselves when she sees the environment or person she fears, the officer said, because it will help us understand the depth of the trauma. Ekaite didn't like the idea because that means her child has to go back to that school. But she trusted the process. They weren't going to force Ini to speak. They were going to let her body speak. The next morning, Inyobon cried the whole time. Her small hands kept on shaking so badly that Ekaite had to button her shirt for her. When she tried to wear Ini's socks, the girl pulled her feet back and whispered, Mommy, but I don't want to go there. It's okay, Ekaite said through tears she couldn't hold back anymore. Nobody will hurt you there again, I promise. She carried Inyobom to the car because the child's legs were too weak from fear to walk. Gabriel opened the car door, trying his best to appear strong, but every time he looked at his daughter, he felt like a father who failed to protect his own blood. They drove slowly, as if they were carrying something more fragile than glass, and the two welfare officers discreetly followed them behind. 5 minutes into the journey, Inyobom suddenly started breathing heavily, and then she said, Daddy, please turn back. I don't want to go. We are not going to leave you, Ekaite replied, rubbing her shoulder. We are right here. But Inyobom wasn't convinced. Her breathing grew faster. Her lips trembled uncontrollably. Mommy, I can't go. Can't you see? Her tiny chest rose and fell like she had run a marathon. Gabriel had to stop the car for a moment. He turned back and held her hand. Any baby, that is here. Nobody will touch you. Not today and not ever again. But the fear had already taken hold. When they turned into the streets leading to the school, Inyobom started shouting and kicking wildly. The scream came from a place so deep and so wounded that even the bells on the electric wires flew off at the sound. Ini, Ekaite cried, trying to hold her safely. It's okay. Calm down. But Nyobon fought her like someone drowning. Her fear was not normal. It was trauma. Gabriel had to park by the roadside. What did that man do to my child? He whispered under breath. The child welfare officer stepped out and approached calmly. Auntie Marian said to her, Sweetheart, we are not going to leave you in school. We are just here to help. But Nyobom didn't hear her because her fear was loud. It took nearly 10 minutes before Nyobom became calmed enough for them to continue driving slowly to the school gates. Parents were dropping off their children. Kids were laughing, running and chatting with their friends. Some waved at her, but she didn't respond. She was caught into herself with tears streaming down. When they finally stopped in front of the gates, Inyobom instantly began screaming again. Mommy, please don't leave me here. Don't let them take me. Parents turned to look. Some froze, some gasped, some covered their mouths. The gate man even rushed forward. Wetin happen again? Madam, your pikin dey sick? Wetin she dey always dey fear for here? Before Ekaite could answer, Inyobom lunged forward and grabbed her mother's gown. She screamed so loudly that children inside the compound stopped playing. Mommy, he will take me. Don't let him take me. He will do it again. It was no longer a private matter. The entire school had now seen it. A teacher passing by stopped in shock. Another one placed her hand on her chest. A group of mothers gathered whispering. What happened to her? Why is she shouting like this? Who wants to take her? Is she being bullied? But the real chaos began when Mr. Bassi himself walked towards the gates carrying his sports whistle. As soon as Ines saw him from a distance, she went from screaming to something worse. She went silent, completely silent. Her body froze, her eyes widened like she had seen a ghost. Then her lips parted, but no sound came out. She gasped for air like she couldn't breathe. Mommy, look at him. He's coming. Ekaite turned and saw exactly what Ines saw. As Mr. Bassi got closer, her scream returned in full force, louder than before, piercing through the walls of the school compound. No! Dear Karma tribe, do you think our parents are handling this whole situation the right way? And do you also think they will win this battle against Mr. Bassi? Kindly drop your thoughts with me in the comment section and please give the story a thumbs up. Share out to your loved ones. And if you have not subscribed to this channel, kindly punch on that subscribe button so that you can join the Karma tribe free of charge. Until I bring the next episode of the story your way, it's a goodbye from here and God bless you.